part of Future Tuesday 9 o'clock.
No.
I know they've done it before, and I know there's been a little bit of a falling out over the years, and there's been some trading of the barbs in the media and the like. I kind of wish he and Trent could kind of get it back together a little bit. I think Marilyn Manson 9 Inch Nails is absolutely a tour that still works today. We talked about this a little bit the other day. Like, you can't do a lot of 90s shows, right? Like, there's no Def Leppard's out there doing another stadium tour. Like, you can't really do that with the 90s because, well, all the singers are dead, right? And so, like, that's a little bit of a problem. But that's a 90s show I think works for sure. Now, I don't think 9 Inch Nails necessarily needs Marilyn Manson as much as Marilyn could probably use Trent today. That's fair. But I'm just talking about as a concert goer. I got the ticket in my hand. I want to go. I'm going to have a good time. You tell me Marilyn Manson opens that show and then 9 Inch Nails closes out? Great. I'm going to that for sure. I'm going. We'll take a listen to the rest of that new 9 Inch Nails. As Sick as the Secrets Within, that part of New Tuesday, 9 a.m. right here on the Stansbury Show. Do have another set of those tickets for Lamb of God and Mastodon. Get those passed out in the 8 o'clock hour. Also in the 8 o'clock hour, Bill Maher versus the Hawk Tuaker. People are jumping up and down on Bill Maher because he's coming off like a little bit of a boomer here in this audio I have. And we'll take a listen to that. We'll do that coming up at 8 o'clock. Also at 7, have to circle back to the Olympics a little. We skipped over this a little bit yesterday. I just didn't get a chance to get to it. But a pole vaulter ended up missing out on Olympic glory, all because of the size of his penis. Now, I know the low-hanging fruit is he already has the glory, right? Like, we all know that. But this would be a little bit of a bummer. He's gone viral over the size of his penis. We'll also have to talk about Dover native Hunter Armstrong a little bit today. A silver medal winner now. As by the time of 47.19, that in the final leg, Hunter Armstrong anchored the U.S. men in silver in the 4x100 medley relay that yesterday in Paris. Shout out to Hunter there. Silver medal, that's pretty damn good, man, right? I know people want to make it all about the one medal. It's like, nah, dude, silver, pretty damn good. So shout out to Hunter Armstrong there. We'll talk about that a few times throughout the program as well. And next on the program, Ben Affleck is apparently getting divorced. He's turning into Taxi Driver, and he's taking on a role that I think a lot of wrestling fans are going to be upset about. Let's talk about that next on the Stansbury Show. All right, it seems as if lately Ben Affleck has been kind of going through it a little bit. We know, I remember you and I talked about this a little bit. Matt Damon, not that long ago, his best buddy, was on record saying, man, we kind of tried to talk to him about going back with Jen. And we tried to tell him, like, dude, how many times have we seen this happen? You know, like, she's just not good for you, man. And, like, apparently they're just toxic. It happens all the time, right? Plenty of relationships, right? And he has always seemed, like, absolutely exhausted in every photo or video of them. Like, it just really looks like she's just one of those who, like, he can do not one thing right. Now, what we should say is the man has struggled mightily with drug and alcohol addiction. And I got to be honest with you, that would get a little annoying after a while. And you might have to stay on top of somebody like that after a while. When you start talking about mixing your kids together, your life together, you're living together, it's a different thing. Easy for us to dismiss the cocaine addiction and be like, well, Good Will Hunting was good, right? But, like, at the end of the day, like, and so I don't really know who's right, who's wrong there. She does seem as if she has problems with dudes. And she does come off as like, all right, you're hot, but like there's zero chance you're worth this hot. Like, there's zero chance you're worth it, right? And there are people like that. Plenty of good-looking dudes I don't think you'd want to spend any time with because it would be like obnoxious to be doing it. And that is definitely true of more than enough good-looking women. She comes off as one of those. I've never met her. I don't know that to be true. She comes off that way. We saw Ben Affleck the other day come out of a building, and he looked just like Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver. And you think to yourself, are they redoing that? Like, is that a thing? Is that? Because they remake everything. And so at first, when I saw the photo the other day, I was like, maybe that's what they're doing. Giving that story to a new, younger audience. Updating it. Making it fresh again, if you will. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. It just looks like a man who was just like, I've had enough. But he's like literally wearing the jacket. He had a Chili Pepper shirt on, and I don't think that's what was going on in Taxi Driver. But the haircut is what really drove it home for everybody. And so people are like, oh no, you just bought a $20 million house. There's, all these stories about the relationship, and now he's coming out looking like Taxi Driver. Oh my God, let's get Ben on suicide watch, right? A lot of people are worried about the Gawker. But then we get this little tidbit of information about Ben Affleck. You know, he is an actor. That's how he's made his way into the world, and he's had plenty of great roles over the years. He's been in some really good movies, been in some questionable movies too. Welcome to being an actor. He is now connected to a project about one of the most famous people of all time, definitely in the 80s, one of the most famous people ever, and most recently has been made famous yet again by some negative PR, although that's mostly been brushed aside. Now I'm, of course, talking about Hulk Hogan. Ben Affleck is apparently going to star as Hulk Hogan. Now, it does not appear as if the bulk of this movie is going to be based around the wrestling. It turns out what Ben Affleck is doing, and he's teaming up with Gus Van Sant, who directed Good Will Hunting. They're getting back together, these two. And apparently what this will be is all about Hulk Hogan suing, and this website used to be massive, Gawker. And really, when that whole thing went down and Gawker had to shut down and all of that stuff like came to a head, most people thought, and I think I was one of them for a minute, kind of felt like, oh, this is going to change the internet forever. It was, and I really did. I thought it was going to change everything forever because they got a little carried away with what they were saying, what they were doing, what they released, and what they had rights to and what they didn't. And I was like, oh my God, dude, people are going to be worried about this now and be buttoned up. And actually, I feel like things got worse after that. Now, I don't know if the Gawker lawsuit is what made things get worse. That could just be one of those things that's like, just kind of happened at the same time. But apparently, Affleck will be, not just in this movie, he is going to be Hulk Hogan. And it will follow the lawsuit that Hogan filed against Gawker for publishing a sex tape of him. It's called Killing Gawker, and it's about Hulkster suing them into the ground. This was a few years ago. We talked about that on the program. It's being written by Chris Randolph, who apparently wrote The Big Short, if you have seen that movie. Being produced by Affleck and Matt Damon's production company. And it sounds like it should be pretty good. The only hesitation is what? Is Ben Affleck as Hulk Hogan. Okay, well, I'm gonna err on the side of a little optimism. Okay, now I care about these properties less than some of you do. But people were beside themselves when it was announced that Ben Affleck was going to play Batman. Now, I don't think he had the luxury of being in any movie that was pretty good as he was Batman, but I don't think Ben Affleck necessarily came off as like the worst Batman you've ever seen. In the suit, he looked all right. We could argue the suit and should it look like this and the metallic eyes, and we could argue some of that, sure. But he ended up coming off as Batman way better than people, I think, thought initially, right? I think that's true of Robert Pattinson, too. He's a little bit more emo Batman, but like he definitely came off better in it than some people expected. That seems to be the thing with Batman no matter what. I know we're talking the Hulk movie here, but like, I'm old enough to remember the Michael Keaton movie, and people didn't like that casting.
Oh, and your
Batman's one of those characters. It's like, how do you do it, right? Apron? Are you going to be a great Bruce Wayne? Or are you going to be a great Batman? But I think Affleck came off in that a little bit better than people had thought.
So then it's just like...
Apparently, Chris Hemsworth was supposed to be playing Hulk Hogan in a Todd Phillips movie. Todd Phillips, who has done the Joker movie and now the second Joker movie, which people coming out of that screening have said that that's really, really good. We'll wait and see what we get there with he and Lady Gaga. But Chris Hemsworth, I guess, in May said, nothing's really finalized here. Now, Hemsworth definitely comes off looking more like Hulk Hogan. More like Hulk Hogan.
That's right.
But it will be like, you know, the special effects department and all of that stuff that gets Ben Affleck dressed up as Hulk Hogan. The voice will be most of it, right? The brothers and all of that. That will be nice. If he can get that down, I think the special effects department can make him look as close to it as humanly possible. Also, I think the more you try to make him look exactly like Hulk Hogan, that's probably where you start to lose yourself in the sauce a little bit. I would just try to get it close-ish. I think the more you're trying to make it a dead-on impersonation, the more people are going to be like, we can still tell it's Affleck, you douche. And, like, that's going to happen no matter what. But, like, but I think you can help combat some of that. The guy's got decent acting chops, Ben Affleck does. Yes, he's been in some stinkers. Not every show I've ever done is very good, right? Some of them are great. Some of them, that's not going in the Hall of Fame, and we know it. And I think that's true of most people at what they do, including actors and roles in movies.
What?
I'll keep an open mind to Ben Affleck being Hulk Hogan. Now, I don't care about wrestling the way I care about, I don't know, let's say maybe this. So when we see that biopic come out and I see who's playing Gene Simmons, I may be beside myself like you are with Affleck and Hulk Hogan. Just gave you some Offspring there, and we'll give you more at 9 a.m. That part of New Turd Tuesday, their new song, Light It Up. You'll be able to weigh in on your opinion on all those songs or anything else we talk about all morning long. That through the text line at 330-450-7625. The microphone talkback button on iHeartRadio at your disposal, too. All right, I saw this. I wasn't planning on getting into this, but it's exhausting to me, and I think this is just about my age. I think once upon a time I'd have been like, what? It's fun, right? Megan Maroney apparently is a country artist. I don't know a whole lot about her. But she had been rumored to be a girlfriend of another pretty famous country artist, Morgan Wallen. And anytime two celebrities are getting together, people are like, oh, that's kind of interesting. It's not one, it's two. Oh, doubly interested, right? And people kind of get into wanting to know what's going on with them. This is how she has responded. When asked if she was dating Morgan Wallen, this is what she said. We were friends for a long time. We were not just friends, and now we're friends. Never officially dated. Which I would imagine this falls under, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. This is what they call a situationship, which apparently is, you're in something, but neither one of you think the other one's really it, so we can't call it a relationship, because I wouldn't be in a relationship with this person. So now we're in a situationship, which again, I think is just an obsession with renaming things. I remember my parents kind of talking about this with my generation a little bit, because I would say, well, that's not my girlfriend, we're just hanging out, or we're just dating a little bit. And my father would say to me all the time, if you're dating, you're dating. And I used to laugh at that, but now I'm like, oh, if you're dating, you're dating. And we'll get into this a little bit more with the Bill Maher conversation coming up at 8 o'clock. I got some audio there because he was sitting down Haley Welch, the Hawk Tuah girl, and kind of talking to her about some stuff. And he came off sounding a little boomerish in it. I don't think it's as cringy as people are saying it is, but there's maybe one or 2 points in there I'm like, oh, that did not land well, right? But he got to talking to her about this and said, look, there's a lot of issues out there in the dating world right now. He's giving her some advice on maybe starting a pod. And he was like, you know, you're kind of famous now. Let's cash in on that. This is what you're famous for. Let's get into this a little bit. And he started to talk about how there's a lot of issues inside of relationships right now. Now, a lot of people, he ends up bringing up the porn thing. I think he's right about it, but how he said it was crazy. And again, we'll get there coming up at 8 o'clock. But that just sounds tiring to me, but I think that's about my age. I remember I said something last week about relationships, sex, or whatever, that was like, after I said it, I was like, I can't believe I said that, because it just didn't sound like me. I'm getting to that point where it's like, nah, it's like things are happening. I said, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I started talking about how I'm recently single again. Not all that recently, actually. I every time her and I split up, I do this. I don't say anything about it for about 2 months. And then about 4th or 5th month, I tell you her and I aren't speaking anymore. That's normally, and that's about right where we're at right now. That's about right where we're at, right? And so that's kind of how that happens, right? But I started talking about that a little bit. I was like, I'm kind of in the, kind of worried about this whole thing. And we started talking about being a little promiscuous and sleeping with somebody outside of a relationship, and what you like and what you don't like, and would you rather go to somebody else's house to have sex? Do you want to bring them home? And what do you do then? And I had said, I was like, I'm probably not bringing you to my house to have sex if I feel like I still need to kick you out on Friday night. I'm probably not going to have sex with you unless I feel like it's okay if you're in my house on Saturday morning. And I was never that guy. I was always like, early meeting, gotta go. Wake up early for work. You know that, right? You gotta go. Get the hell out of here. I don't want you. You have served your purpose. Leave. Right? Like I had been that kind of guy. Like, depending on the person, right? Not everybody, but depending on the person, it's kind of like what we were doing. And I've been thrown out of plenty of houses by women who told me they had to wake up early for work too. It's not just a man thing. But I said that day, and I was like, who am I? I was like, when did that happen? Really? That's who I am now? I was shocked by that. Right? And I kept sitting with it all day when I was at home later that afternoon. I was like, is that real? Did I mean that? Is that, because I've told you this before. So many times I'll say things, and my brain obviously thought it and knows, let it go. But I don't know how everybody's brain works. Mine works so fast, like that sometimes when I say things into a microphone, it's news for me too. Where I'm like, wait, what? I think that? When did I start thinking that? Like that, I mean, it happens to me a lot in here. And so I feel like listening to this, again, Megan Maroney, just sounds very confusing. Now, the younger you are, and they're both young. And so they don't necessarily care about stuff. But it says, we were friends for a long time. We were not just friends, and now we're friends. Never officially dated. So now I think I can make sense. Kind of knew one another in the same country world, then decided, you're cute, so are you, let's get drunk and have some sex. I believe his song, Whiskey Friends, is about her. And I think she wrote a song about a guy being a Tennessee Volunteers fan, and he's a huge Vols fan. And I think they wrote songs about one another. But it sounds like kind of knew one another, then got drunk and had some sex, and was like, well, I don't want to just have sex. You want to hang out a little bit and get a couple of, Chipotle burritos every couple of days and pretend that we like one another. And now they realize, we don't really work as that thing, and we're being friends.
I love you.
Situationships, it just feels very messy for me today. I get it. The younger you are, it feels like action, just like drama, right? Like, I used to be that guy. Oh, I want a crazy woman. Give it crazy in the head, great in bed. Give me the psychos, man. Oh, my God. Dude, the last thing I want is a psycho now. That's the last thing I want is a bunch of drama now. Drama used to feel like fun. Used to feel like action, something going on, a little bit invested, skin in the game. But like, now. Too much drama, and I'd be like, all right, so this is an easy number to take out of my phone now. Very easy. Much like I used to like providing some drama. That was kind of fun, too. I have zero interest in running anybody around on some drama. Zero interest in it. I think it's just about the age. I've just kind of hitting that point now, and I should have hit it 15, 20 years ago. That's what I'm sure a lot of you are thinking right now. Bro, you should have been here a long time ago. We tried to tell you forever, man, but you kept calling us dummies and then playing the same song 10 million times. So, like, don't blame us, man. We were here for you. I'll have more Smashing Pumpkins for you at 9, their new song, Xiaomi. We'll take a listen to that for New Tour Tuesday. Also, new Marilyn Manson, new Offspring. You know what else is happening at 9? I've done a bad job of telling you this morning, but another $1,000 keyword, and that keyword will also give you that $1,000 and we'll send you out to the iHeartRadio Music Festival. We'll get that keyword passed out to you at 9 a.m. this morning. All right, I don't think anybody can deny the fact that there have been some issues with the Olympics this year. There just have been plenty of controversy. It's all over the place. The opening ceremony was referred to as satanic. Right? I don't necessarily think they're satanic. But then we had people kind of mimic the Last Supper, lie to us and tell us that's not what they were doing, and then one of the artists was on her Instagram actually superimposing the two photos on top of one another and saying, welcome to the gay testament, basically saying, this is what we're doing, right? And I kept saying, I was like, well, I don't know if it's crazy that people on their couch thought they saw that, if that's what the woman who performed it thought that's what she was doing. I don't know if that makes the people on their couch idiots, like everybody was saying. Hey, I thought this is what I was doing, and then we're shocked that's what people thought they were seeing. Insanity, right? So there's been that. There's been the boxing issue. That's been a little conflict. A UK swimmer the other day said that the athletes are finding worms in their food. Imagine going to France and not getting the food right. I mean, like, that's what they're kind of known for. An Italian swimmer, was it an Italian swimmer, I believe? An Italian swimmer, I think it was caught. He was seen sleeping outside. The guy won a medal. They asked him, what the hell are you doing? He said, the air conditioning situation here is terrible. Now, we've heard this in previous Olympics where it's like the Olympic Village isn't everything it's cracked up to be. Now, a lot of times, what are you doing there? It's not necessarily built that way, you know, throughout the rest of the time. It's like you're kind of putting things up makeshift to kind of, you know, get ready for these types of things and housing all these people and feeding them all. And I'm sure it's a hassle to do all of that. I'm sure. Absolutely would have to be, I would imagine. But we could probably get it to the point to where we could cool these athletes down and not serve them worms for food. Disgusting. I don't know what the hell's going on. Then we've also seen here where a 20-year-old athlete who retired from her sport because she did not advance into the women's 100-meter butterfly was asked to leave Olympic Village. She's a swimmer from Paraguay, I believe, Luana Alonso, because apparently she's creating an inappropriate atmosphere. This is the quote. Her presence is creating an inappropriate atmosphere within Team Paraguay. That's the head of the Paraguayan Olympic Committee. Quote, we thank her for proceeding as instructed, as it was her own free will that she did not spend the night in Athletes Village. Apparently, she had been seen staying in Olympic Village despite announcing her retirement from the sport. She had spent time in Disneyland instead of supporting her teammates. That upset her country's Olympic leadership. She also became a distraction to other competitors with her skimpy clothing and socializing with other athletes. I think we know what socializing in that regard means, right? I think we know, right? That kind of sounds like, you know, it kind of sounds like back in the day when parents would say, I got the ruler out at the school dance, leave room for Jesus, right? Like, okay, I think we know it's socializing. Rail down at the Olympics, which I got to tell you, dude, if I went to the Olympics, and I'm not going to meddle in that. It's like, well, I'm going home with something, right? And like, I would definitely be trying to hook up at the Olympics. That's one of those stories forever, right? It's kind of like being in the Mile High Club. Now, today, I don't think I would try it, and the FBI no-fly list and all that would be bad news bears. But having that story, oh, I've done it. Like that, I mean, come on, admit it. You kind of want some of those stories. It's kind of how that goes. So I can't be all that shocked by it. This story was pretty wild. Saturday for the Olympics. This we put up on our Facebook yesterday at the Stansbury Show. Anthony Amirati, I believe is how you say his name. He's a Frenchman. And probably the most famous Frenchman now. As the pole vaulting didn't go all that well. Homie was trying to clear 5.70 meter bar during Saturday's qualification. You have probably seen this video, or at least seen a photo of it since it has gone viral. Literally, his penis knocked the crossbar off of its support system. He missed it. I mean, you know how many times you've heard this by a pubic hair man? Like, I mean, the amount of times you've heard that. Now, I would imagine all Olympians are probably smooth air downstairs, right? Like, I would just have to imagine speed and time and all that, right? Like, and the pubic hair slows you down, apparently. So, like, I'm willing to bet. But, like, the man literally, and, like, this is how silly my brain is sometimes. He didn't even, like, knock it off. He didn't tip it off. Homie knocked that bar off mid-dog. Like, center mast of the shaft. And he just, like, yanked that thing off the bar. You can see all the looks on the people's faces. And, like, in the moment, they weren't quite sure what happened there. Because you would think, oh, belly or this, or maybe the thigh did it. It's the slow motion video over and over and over again where it's like, oh, look at that. They got John Holmes in the Olympics now. 9 a.m., I'm sitting on a keyword that puts $1,000 in your pocket. Also sends you out to see the iHeartRadio Music Festival. Get you that first keyword of the day at 9 a.m. this morning. Also, New Cheer Tuesday. I've been talking about the Olympics a little bit, and it's because, well, they're all over the headlines. One of the things I didn't even mention is Snoop, right? Apparently, he's been paid like $500,000 to help promote the Olympics. Seems to be working. You know, I see him all over the place. I hear about it constantly. It seems to be going viral on the socials and the like. I saw this yesterday from somebody. I thought it was interesting. He's like, this guy said online, he goes, my mom called me to tell me how much pleasure she's getting and how much she's enjoying seeing Snoop at the Olympics. It's like, I had to remind her she grounded me for buying this CD. I thought that, it's actually pretty funny, right? And so we were talking about that a little bit, obviously, with the French pole vaulter knocking the crossbar off with his penis. So, of course, all the low-hanging fruit for the last 2 days have all been, D-jokes and like, oh, my God, he won the gold medal in penises, and right, and all of this. And, look, I would imagine that going through life with a nice-sized penis is nice. Right? Like, that's pretty nice, right? Like, you ever see some people be like, from where does the ego come? It's like, oh, wait, I think I know. All right, I do think I know, right? For sure. I get it. But that man trained to be an Olympian. I don't think he's going home and hugging his mom and dad and going, well, thanks for the package, Holmes. You know what I mean? Who needs the medal? I have this thing. I don't know if that's how that works. I'm willing to bet that dude is still sad. Now, I know everybody knows that. And I know people are just kind of screwing around with it. Right? And I understand that. It is. It's funny. Right? Like I said, dude, he didn't even tip it off. It was like mid-dong he knocked that thing off. Like, that's insane.
No,
like,
still here.
It just it feels this weird to talk that much about it. About another man's penis. Oh, are you homophobic? And, I'm going to quote a buddy of mine. He's like, dude, I'm homophobic in a way that makes sense. Right? He's like, I don't care if gay people get married. I don't want to be talking or touching dongs. And he's like, my buddy always says, he's like, I'm homophobic in a way that makes sense. Right? And he's kind of right about that, right? I understand how that goes. Allison had reached out and said, man, I bet you every pole vaulter from here on out ends up tucking. And I said, full-blown, Silence of the Lamb style. This is the way you're going to have to go from here on out. And, we share a little bit of a laugh about that. Yeah, I would imagine taping to the leg is going to be a thing. I mean, I've heard about that with plenty of athletes before. That's why some of the athletic wear that people wear is the material. Was to help keep boobs in place and penises from flopping around. Right? That's the thing about the sexual regions. They're on the move, right? There's some shaking going on. That's what kind of makes them attractive a little bit. That they grow and expand and move and jiggle and bounce. That's what makes your eyes go, oh, man, dude, I kind of like that. I don't know what that is, but I'm in. I kind of like that, right? Kind of sets off that alarm system in your mind. Like we had been talking about that. Also talked about Lauren Alonso a little bit. She was sent to the Olympics and apparently did not qualify for the medal round and has walked away from her sport. She's a swimmer. But she had been staying in Olympic Village, which I was kind of surprised by. I'm like, once you retire from the sport, get out of the Olympic Village. What are we doing here? Right? I think once you don't qualify for the next round or whatever, it's like, pack your bags, time to go. Right? Okay, let's get you out of here. Now, that's maybe a little cold-hearted from me. All right? But apparently she had been creating like an awkward environment is what I think they say. Inappropriate environment is what they call it. So apparently the people had been complaining about the way she was dressing, which sounds very boomer. Right? Pull out the ruler, let's see where that skirt's to the knees, lady, to the knee. Right? It sounds very restrictive. But apparently she was making people uncomfortable with her, they put this in quotes, socializing. I said, well, we know what socializing means there, right? That's sex. That's what that means. And I had said, I totally understand it. You send me to the Olympics, I'm trying, and now, look, if I have a wife and kid at home or if I'm in a relationship, no, obviously. But you send me there as a young athlete, I mean, this woman's 20 years old. You send me there as a young athlete, I'm 20, I'm in Olympic Village, and I have a chance to bang it out, I'm doing it. It's like vacation sex. We talked about this not that long. My friend Heather is this person. Every time she goes on vacation, she'll tell you, if I'm not in a relationship, I'm sleeping with her. It's one of those things. She kind of collects the stories from where she goes. It's like the weirdest stamp in a passport ever, but okay. And but it's just kind of who she is. And I can kind of understand that. The first time I went to Vegas and stayed in a Vegas hotel, the Mirage, I think was the first hotel I ever stayed at there, which is no longer going to be a thing, sadly. But the first time I stayed on the Strip in Vegas, I was like, I have to have sex in this room. It's the Vegas Strip. You have to do it. Sex kind of cements certain things. Like, all right, so next month, it'll be a year that I moved into my house, right? And so when I moved in there, it's like, you're busy, you're doing this, you're doing that, you got to get this delivered and get that delivered. And so, right, it's a little while before you totally get situated. I did not feel like I was home until I had sex there. Once I had sex in the house, I was like, I live here now, right? Much like when I moved here. I said, well, people said, how do you like living here? And I said, well, I reside here.